Alright, hello everyone. I am going to show you the decks that I'm going to use to try and get to Master Ball. I have decided that I'm gonna try and get to Master Ball this season, and I will do that mostly with streaming probably. So if you are seeing this, there might be a chance that I am live right now, so come by and say hello. If I'm not, there might be some older videos that you could watch where I do play the decks that I'm gonna talk about in this video. So if you want some more details or want to ask me some questions, then do that there. The three decks that I am going to be using are the Solgaleo deck, a Crobat deck, and a Rampardos deck. And let's start with this Rampardos deck. We can have a look at the details here. It includes obviously Rampardos and the Garchomp, and this deck is pretty strong in the current meta. It uses the rare candy to get the Garchomp and the Rampardos up and very fast. And since Gible is the only basic Pokemon in your deck, you will always draw that card, so that is pretty good. You will always start with a Gible, and then you can draw some Skull Fossils if you are a little bit lucky. But even if you get a rare candy and a Garchomp, then you already have Garchomp's linear attack, which deals 50 damage to anything you want, even a benched Pokemon. So if your opponent plays anything that has only 50 HP, you will easily be able to knock it out on the bench or wherever it is. Now, I am currently running only one Lily in this deck, but I would recommend running two Lilies. I only have one, so that is why I'm using one here. I'm also using Guzma, but you can totally replace it with any other trainer that you like, maybe another Iono or a Sabrina or another Cyrus. That's really up to you. I am only using one Cyrus here. It is kind of recommended to maybe use a Cyrus and a Sabrina. The other thing that I would recommend is maybe actually using an X-Speed, since because you are going to have Gible in the active spot at all times, it might be useful to get an X-Speed if you manage to get a Rampardos on your bench, so you can easily play that on like the third turn. Besides that, this deck is just really fast and kind of fun to play. Alright, now let's look at the Crobat deck. There's two variations of this. It's kind of depending on what you want to play, what you think you like to play, which one you are gonna pick. This iteration has the Darkrai in it, so this is a deck that runs on Dark Energy. So Crobat and Zubat will be able to attack in this deck, and it also includes a Golbat in case you don't get a rare candy, so you have a backup option there. And besides that, it uses Arceus. Arceus has the lovely ability with Crobat that Crobat can do 30 damage to whatever he wants to, wherever he is. So you always have a 30 damage extra, and Darkrai is able to also do 20 damage if you put an energy on him. So if you have, for example, a Darkrai in the active or an Arceus in the active, and you play an energy on Darkrai plus a Crobat, that's already 50 damage without actually attacking. So that is lovely and is able to snipe a lot of players out. It also uses a Pokeball and a Pokemon Communications. Pokemon Communications is mainly to get you the Pokemon that you need faster. And then you have two rare candies, two Professor's Research, kind of the same thing over and over again. And you use Ilma, and this card is useful if you have a damaged Arceus in your active spot. You don't have any energy on it, and you want to, for example, play Darkrai, or want to play Crobat since it's able to do 50 damage, and that's exactly what you need. Then you can just use Ilma to get your Arceus back into your hand and immediately play it on your bench. There's really not a huge downside to it, so I would recommend playing that. Then there is also the other version that uses grass type energy, and this version has Carnivine in it. Now Carnivine is very nice because he gets 30 extra damage if there's an Arceus in play. So if you are against Rampardos decks, this deck is amazing, since if you have a Carnivine which only requires 1 energy and you get a Arceus that is already 70 damage, and you could win the game basically by turn 1. Now this deck doesn't run a Golbat, but uses Rare Candy mostly, and the Crobat and Zubat won't be able to actually deal damage since they require dark energy, so you do have to keep that in mind. There is a downside to running Carnivine, so it's really whatever your preference is. Do you want to play a Carnivine, or do you want to maybe play Darkrai? You could also in the other deck use Darkrai, a second Darkrai instead of the Golbat, though I don't really recommend that. Running 1 Darkrai with 2 Pokeball is already pretty good. This deck also has the 2 Pokeball, the Pokemon Communications, Rare Candy, etc. But it also uses 1 Leaf. You should maybe use an X-Speed instead of Leaf. I am gonna probably switch that out. And Iono is also a very nice card if you have a very bad hand, so I would recommend running that as well. It functions pretty much the same as the other deck, just has a Carnivine. And then lastly, the king of this meta, Solgaleo. The deck is very straightforward. You want to play it with 2 Cosmog and 1 Cosmoem, 2 Solgaleo and 2 Skarmory. The first turn is basically just having Skarmory in the active, getting a Pokemon tool on your Skarmory, so do run this deck with like 2 Giant Capes, 2 Rocky Helmet, or whatever Pokemon tool you prefer, and then your Skarmory is able to do 50 damage with that Pokemon tool on him. So that 50 damage is already a lot again, and besides that you just run it with the same kind of cards that you mostly run the other decks with as well. I am using 1 Lily here. You could also use 2 Lilies and then no Cosmoem, but having Cosmoem as a backup if you don't draw rare candies is kinda nice in this deck. So it's really whatever is your preference again. Good luck with your ranked games, and hopefully these decks are useful to you as well as they are to me. Hope to see you in my live streams.